And this is the Y'all Show, talk with a Southern accent. And here on the program that's all about the South, we welcome in our Toccopola Storyteller to the program, Jerry Short, as Jerry has so much up his sleeve, and even when he's wearing short sleeves, he's got things up his sleeve. And our Toccopola Storyteller is joining us right now on the program that's all about the South. Hello, Toccopola Storyteller.
What do you say, John? How you like my hair?
I like it. You
They
got one
won't
of
let
the.
us get a haircut here for long.
Isn't that crazy that we can't? I mean, I was lucky that I went in and got me my ears lowered probably the last couple of days before everything shut down, and that was a really good move because everybody who didn't get one and all the ladies that didn't go to the beauty parlor, I feel sorry for them.
Well, I was 2 weeks late then needing one. My wife had offered to pay for mine if I'd go get it, and I didn't get it. So right now, I'm just a rubber band away from a ponytail.
Yeah, there's a lot of you like that, Jerry Short.
I know
Jerry, how you holding up? Have you got your stimulus check yet?
it. No, I haven't got mine, and my wife's in the Philippines, and she hasn't gotten hers. She's talked to. Yeah, I think she's talked live. I know she's been on the internet a good deal with her, and she's supposed to get hers this coming week,
Or
sometime
she's getting a
Tuesday, Wednesday.
stimulus check?
That's right. She's all she's just away is from being a citizen is the oath. You know, she's passed all the tests. We spent all the fortune to get her in this country, but she was over at her. Obviously, you know, we talked about before. She was over at her brother's funeral and can't get out of the country. Their president will not let them fly in country. And I got bad news from her last night that her international flight, is going to stop in Seoul, Korea, South Korea, and it was supposed to go on to Detroit and then to Memphis, but they said no, and so she's trying to work that out. She didn't seem too happy last night about the chances either. Going to have to probably buy another one-way ticket. And I know her brother-in-law and sister stuck over there from Salt Lake City, and they've been out considerable money. And all I hear is how the government's going to bail the airlines out, but the airlines are keeping the money, and they're not helping any. You stay on the phone with them, she says. She'll be on hold for 2 or 3 hours, and we got somebody working on it. We'll get back with you, but they seem to never get back. So, you know, she's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place in southern part of the Philippines and can't get to Manila. And then if she gets there, who wants to be stuck in Seoul, South Korea?
And she doesn't have a clue how long she would be in Seoul?
No, that's it. That's the end of the ticket now.
Oh, really?
It's Korean Airlines, who's owned by Delta, I believe, who will not extend it right now. They've extended it twice, and they've had to cancel it twice. So they've done her sister the same way, trying to get to Salt Lake City, and they've been out considerably more money, trying to get a one-way trip back. So normally it's about a $1,200, $1,400 flight to Manila from America and back, round trip. And right now they're wanting $2,500 one way.
Mm.
So, and that's not going to guarantee you anything. So she's a little bit hesitant about going on and doing it. You know, she's got a good house. She's locked down in it, but she's going stir crazy as I am.
I can understand. But the good news is she got her $1,200 check, and that's good. She worked hard for it. Remember, although she's not officially a U.S. citizen, she did work all last year and all the years that she's been in America, and she's paid her taxes, and therefore our rules say that you get a stimulus check even if you're not officially a U.S. citizen if you've been paying taxes as she has been doing.
That's correct.
Do you think she could go to a consulate there in the Philippines and get sworn in and become an official
Well,
citizen?
they can't leave their house.
Oh, okay.
And they're going to do it in Memphis as a group. That's when she passed her test. They told her she made 100 on her on her test to become a citizen. And now we'll send you when you're going to do your oath. We'll do the oath as a group. And the oath is never got word of the oath. All this hit about the same time. So she took her test in January. So thought she felt like she would be. They told her probably March she would be taking her oath. So she was hoping to take it before she went to the Philippines to her brother's funeral. But didn't work out that way. So, the government's got all these plans and they sound good a lot of times. And, I can take you through a few steps that I've been involved
Oh, please do.
in.
Please do.
Well, I will. Um,
You and the government. That seems like
I'm
the.
kind of at a loss for words.
Yeah.
But unless I'm really kind of upset, and this kind of upsets me the way the government's just passing out money that they're printing and borrowing or whatever they're going to do. There's no way to pay it back, and the economy's folding before our eyes. But I remember in 1964, my first year that I was down in South Louisiana, and a hurricane come in named Hilda in '64, and we left the ones that were working. I was working on a pipeline. It was in October. It was a late hurricane. And when we went back down there, 3 weeks later, they give us all clear to go back and go down there. The whole place was from Thibodeau all up by Lafourche to Napoleonville was just completely wiped out. All the sugarcane was flat, laying on the ground. They got zero help as far as I found out from my excuse me, my in-laws to be. So I came back up and went to college for abbreviated time, and Betsy hit. So my fiance wanted me to come back down there. So I went back down. I hitchhiked into Betsy and stayed at their house. They didn't have any electricity, didn't have ice. We had some dry ice. We had hijacked trucks coming down from Baton Rouge, which was about 65 miles, and it would come to Napoleonville. We'd finally figured out to get any kind of ice to keep anything, to get that dry ice. We had to go hijack the truck. We didn't hold them up under gunpoint like Gunsmoke with a stagecoach or anything. It was just strictly get in line and get some dry ice and take it further south because we met the truck halfway. So they didn't get anything, and it did a lot of damage there. So the next situation that came up was Camille, and Camille hit the Gulf Coast. And at that time, the Mississippi Gulf Coast was as wide open with as much going on, and motels and clubs, and unfortunately some men's clubs and things like that were all over the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And Camille hit it and wiped it completely out. We went to martial law. I was in the military. I was sent back down there. We were called out, and I stayed down there. The only thing that had I saw any kind of help from the federal government was Richard Nixon was president. He had been in California, I guess, on vacation or a trip. This was August, and he flew in, landed on the tarmac at the CB base. There's a CB base and an air base beside each other at Biloxi. And he stayed and talked to our governor a little while. Then he flew down the coast and looked out the window. I saw that on CBS News, where he looked out the window. And they did nothing, as far as I know. We had to build back ourselves. But my point in all this is when Katrina hits, I'm up at Cadiz, Kentucky, coming back this way. And I'm listening to WWL New Orleans radio station. And the mayor, Nagin, was on a talk show with Spud, they called it. And he was saying, I'm glad we dodged the bullet. It didn't hit New Orleans. It hit Mississippi, and they can handle it because they got ground. It goes uphill where we're still flat down here. So the water will run back out into the Gulf. So the heck with Mississippi, he's kind of making a joke out of it. Well, the next thing I know, the floods come across Lake Pontchartrain and bust the levees and flood the Ninth Ward mainly in New Orleans, which could have been protected because they have a thing down there called levee boards. I know they have 2 Lear jets. Now, I know the first price tag on the Superdome was a mere $20 million. Now we're talking 66, okay? $20 million. It ended up coming in under $90 million. A lot of Louisiana people had to pay for that. But instead of evacuating people out of the Ninth Ward, they had buses ready to go. The mayor of New Orleans said, no, that's fine. So they ended up putting them all, just crowding them in the Superdome. Well, the federal government went back and paid all that off. And so they had a thing, and Mississippi got completely wiped out. I mean, there was nothing left from Waveland all the way to Pascagoula. As a matter of fact, Trent Lott, who was a senator at the time, his home got wiped out. It was facing the Gulf at Pascagoula. And they had a show at Ole Miss called Mississippi Rising. It was televised on all networks, MSNBC. But at that time, I was doing photography stuff and sports stuff for a newspaper in North Mississippi. By the way, that was I did that free, so there wasn't money involved in it. So
we'll get you a stimulus check for that, Jerry.
I need to get a stimulus check. So we went up and they sent a reporter, and when we got there, Senator Lott, we had it in just off of the Coliseum, a room where the basketball players had their meetings and all. So we had it in there, and he said, is this going to be video, audio, print media, what? And everybody said, oh, it's just print media. So Senator Lott took his jacket off and kicked back, relaxed, and everybody threw softball questions at him. And then here I am, redneck Toccopola.
Oh, you're not redneck. Come on now.
Well, semi. And don't mind it a bit, call me that, that's fine. And as it was all ending, he said, is that all the questions? And everybody, yeah. And I raised my hand. I was sitting on a desk in the back of the room where I could get some Zoom shots of him talking. And he said, yeah. And I knew him because my daughter had been in the same sorority at Ole Miss with his daughter.
Okay.
And I met him there once before. But I don't think he didn't recognize me when I raised my hand. So I can't imagine him not recognizing me. I didn't have my hat on.
Yeah.
So
yeah, keep that hat on.
Anyway, I said, Senator, let me ask you, when did it become the United States of America's obligation to give money, because President Bush had just told Brownie what a great job he was doing.
Michael Brown, the former FEMA chief.
Yeah, right. He was a FEMA director. Mm-hmm. And he had just told, I think he was FEMA director, wasn't he? Yeah. He had just told him that. And so I said it become our responsibility as a government to just give us. I'm not asking for anything from Mississippi, but you're putting everything back in the Ninth Ward, and you're doing all that stuff over there. And he said, well, it's just kind of evolved to this. After things that happened in the past, we didn't do much for, but now we've developed this FEMA, and we've developed these other organizations and things. So they were doing that, and I said, well, let me just say this. They already asking for millions and billions of dollars. I said, I want us to get our share, because our governor took a chainsaw and cut his way into Biloxi from the Capitol in Jackson, because trees were down everywhere. And I said, I think it's only fair that we get our part. So he just said, well, it's just evolved. And I said, well, I don't much go for the evolved word, but he left it at that. And when he walked by me, he was leaving, and he put his coat on. He said, have I met you before? I said, yes, sir, you have. I've ate with you at a sorority house on campus. And he said, oh, I thought I recognized you from somewhere. But anyway, he said, that was a pretty tough question you asked. And I said, well, it was meant to be, sir. And or senator, hopefully I said senator. But it's been things like that that's happened continually. I did some FEMA work myself for, and then you can go back to the oil well that exploded in the Gulf out in the Gulf of Mexico.
The Deepwater Horizon.
Yeah. When that one did, I worked on that for 9 months, and they spent so much money down there that they gave the subcontractors, and that was my job. I was auditing it. I had every figure, and don't come looking for me now, please, government. But I had every figure on what every contractor was getting and what they were paying their workers, and they were making a fortune. It was so much money wasted, it was unbelievable. I mean, I've got records of that. Still got those records. And it's things like that have gone on. And now we come with a stimulus package. And, if you're out there still, if you're making $60,000 dang dollars a year, they're going to give you $1,200. Now, can you explain to me, host of the show, Mr. Riles, where is any of that?
I don't know if I can explain it, but Jerry, I want to keep talking, if you don't mind, a little bit more about all this fun. We've got to take a quick break here on the Y'all Show, and we'll do that. I am John Rawl, and this is the show that's all about the South. More of our conversation with the Toccopola Storyteller is coming up right after this. We've got more stimulus check talk with Jerry, and if time permits, we've been talking with Jerry here the last couple of weeks about his adventures in the jails of the Southeast. And now that we're letting prisoners out, sometimes rightfully so, because we don't want them to die of the COVID 19. I know of at least one time Jerry Short spent some time in a prison for an expired license. And how would you like to be in prison right now for dumb things like expired licenses? If we have time, we'll fill that in, and we'll have a lot more right here on the show that's all about the South. Jerry, if you could, please sit up just a little bit more right there. Thank you. And if our viewers right now are watching, if you've got a question or comment for our Toccopola Storyteller, we're monitoring the Facebook Live feed. We'll be happy to share that with our Toccopola Storyteller. We got a couple of really good comments when we had Jerry on last week in our first official live broadcast, a visual broadcast of Jerry Short. So thank y'all for tuning in and for weighing in on our Toccopola Storyteller. Now back to the show. And this is the Y'all Show, wrapping up our show here, the last segment. We've got our Toccopola Storyteller, Jerry Short, and we're talking about government stimulus checks, government waste, and we'll try to squeeze in a little prison talk with Jerry Short before we get out of here on today's Y'all Show. Okay, Jerry, you kind of set the stage in the previous segment about all the waste you've seen in past Mother Nature events, the hurricanes of the South and things like that. Now we've got a pandemic going on, and we're seeing a lot of waste. People are getting their $1,200 stimulus checks, maybe more than that if they've got children. And I know you have a lot more to say about this subject.
Yeah, it's been rather confining to most everybody. Now, I've got some friends that are pretty, they're on the borderline of having maybe diabetes or some kind of respiratory disease that they don't really need anybody around them. So I've tried to stay clear of them. They call me and ask me to come by and see them. And I have gone by and saw them a couple of times because I think we did talk about when I was quarantined with hepatitis. And it's not a good feeling to be in a house by yourself all the time. And I tell you what this one has done to me, being quarantined in this house. I got frostbitten. I got beat all right. I got frostbitten in the military in the desert and got gas spilled on my jungle boots and my feet froze. So they've never been the same, and that was in 1990. And they've never been the same. And I've lost my balance of not being able to be outside working and walking. So I got up to get a light changed and lost my balance, and I realized that I'm getting ready to have to go on out and take a lot of exercise to get my feet back. And that's one thing that quarantine can do. And I understand, people get so depressed. And I've seen some figures, it's unbelievable on what they projecting maybe as suicide from this. And we have a lot of suicides every year we don't even think about. But there's a lot of other diseases that can continue to get worse. You just can't go see a doctor for a normal, what you would consider to be normal. But, you need to see that doctor. But they're not letting you now. I think Trump's trying to open that stuff up, it looks like. So I know he's having some trouble. He's had some trouble with a governor of Michigan. I believe they have a write-in to recall her. I think I saw where they had 150,000 signatures. I don't know exactly how many it takes, but she's had some really off the wall comments, like you can't be in a boat fishing on on Lake Michigan or somewhere. However, you can be in a kayak. So, I mean, how do you explain that? I think I heard the president say something about that same identical situation. But being locked up and cooped up, I've got some friends that are really scared. I was talking to a friend of mine that's locked up day before yesterday, and he said his secretary wears gloves and rubber pants in her house and a mask all day long. And she's that paranoid over the situation. So I think the media has done a lot to create some of this paranoia. And, they need to slack up on some of that. If I'm not mistaken, there's someone's getting together a show to explain to the children that have missed school that it's not, as serious. We'll come out of it. And, you're taking, a lot of these young people that don't understand this. As you know, I'm a boomer generation. And
born in 1946. Gee, I wonder what happened right after World War II came to an end.
I don't know. The lights went out in New York and something happened up there one time, didn't it?
Yeah.
But I think they had a birth control, unbirth control blast up in New York that time. And there was more babies born after World War II than any other time. And my group was the first ones to graduate from high school. We were 18 years old after 46, if you do the math. So it's just kind of, and then we went through the Cold War. And then we went through all that stuff and went through the Civil Rights Movement. And we went through all those things. But they didn't affect us. And I don't know if it was because we were different, but they act like this is really going to affect these kids. And I was quarantined for 4 months with hepatitis. And when I walked out the door, it was behind me. But I don't know if that's the difference in youth today. I know it's not bothering my grandkids at all. They're just normal and staying at home, and they're doing their homework. They still have to do their homework and on computer. But they're still doing everything else just completely normal. They got a swimming pool in the backyard, and they go swimming, and then they shoot basketball on the side of the house. So it just kind of depends on how you are. How much time you got left?
We got time. I do want to point out, we don't want to discount what's going on with the coronavirus, but we do want to point out that we do take it serious. In fact, Jerry, you may not be aware, this just broke on Sunday, that your state of Mississippi now has more positive cases than any other state. I think 300 brand new cases just released on Sunday. So it is a scary thing.
Yeah. I think that came up one time before, and then somebody got ahead of us, and then I guess we've come back. But, I see it every day where it's broken down by county.
Mm-hmm.
And, I know Jefferson Davis County forever didn't have any. And then the next day I look up and they've got 6 or 7. So, you got to kind of think they go from family, sometime to family, to get quarantined together. That would be one of my way, way out yonder explanations, I guess. But, to finish on a better note, I don't know how much time you got.
We got a couple minutes. For you, we'll make room.
I found I bought some timber from an absentee landowner in Chicago one time, and they told me uh, that their land in Mississippi was kind of managed by their uncle, and so I went down to cut the timber, and they told me they thought he might have a whiskey still on it, and I never had really been around a whiskey still, but I went down there and found it. It was under a cedar grove, and I wasn't cutting cedar. I was cutting oak and pine and of that nature, mixed woods. And I told the crew that was cutting there that day, I said, I'm going down and check this whiskey still out. And y'all go ahead. And then the skidder operator, the guy that pulls the logs, he said, I got such a bad toothache, you're going to have to take me home. And I said, let me go down here and check all this. You come down and blow your horn if I don't come out here, because I don't know who's going to be down there. But it was the filthiest, nastiest whiskey still. You know, they had all the sugar and their crushed corn and their barley malt and their dang everything else, and their mash was covered. They had everything fixed. They had some of it boiling at the time, and there was only one guy who walks up and he tells me he was from another part of the state almost. He was probably from 70 miles away. He said, you know, this is the best job I've ever had. And I said, what? He said, this is the best job. He says, I get here at 10 in the morning and I get this cooked off, and then I let it ferment in those 55-gallon drums over there when we run it through this stuff. And I'm looking at where they're getting their water out of a pond that was stagnant with cottonmouth swimming around in it, with a water hose running down. And instead of a cheesecloth, after run through all these old dirty copper pipes, it run off in these jugs. And I said, what proof is this? He said, oh, it could be 200, but it's probably about 170. He said, you want a drink? And I said, no, I believe I'll pass. And my guy come up about that time, my skidder operator, and I said, come on. I went up where he was sitting on a skidder. I said, come on in here with me. I got something for you. And I told the guy that was running the whiskey still, I said, give him what you was going to give me. Give him a shot of that corn whiskey. And he did. And he gave him a shot of that corn whiskey. So I went on and finished talking up, and I took some pictures of the steel and all that because I really found it in. He said, just don't take a picture of me. And I said, what do you get for this? And he said, well, here in Mississippi, we're getting about $10 a gallon, and we're hauling to Chicago, and we're getting about $25 to $30 a gallon. And I said, my gracious, y'all making money off of this thing. And he said, yes, best job I ever had, I told you. And so.
And this again was a guy who had been a teacher, a school teacher?
Yeah, that's right. You got a pretty good memory. And
I mean, we're not trying to get him in trouble, but.
No, we wouldn't do that. And I went up, I got through with him, and I went up to the loading ramp, and I was getting ready to leave. And skidder operator, the guy with the toothache, come up, and I said, do you still need me to take you home? For what? He forgot all about it. That dang whiskey had knocked that pain out of that tooth.
Golly.
He didn't have any pain. And then one quick notice, a friend of mine, it's a veterinarian son, guess he makes Jack Daniel's whiskey in Tennessee. And he told me they had converted
at the legitimate factory, not just some kind of another moonshine.
No, this is legit. This is the real Jack Daniel's. And I'm sure, I don't even have a clue what they get a bottle, but I'm sure it's expensive. So he said they had changed over to making sanitation hand wash stuff.
Okay.
And it's about the same stuff they use to make whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
However, they make a lot more money making whiskey. But they're doing that. I heard a truck driver. One of them was at the White House with the president.
Oh.
He said he's hauling 2 trailer truckloads out of Jack Daniel's a week for the sanitation hand wash.
Okay.
So anyway, I thought that was a pretty nice thing that Jack Daniel's was doing.
And
it was a lot nicer than my guy was doing down there running that filthy home brew through.
And it's, again, this past week at the White House, the president honored the truck drivers of the country because they are essential in what they're doing, delivering supplies of all types around the country. And Jerry, we want to also thank our moonshine stills. I'm not sure if they were classified essential or not.
Well, they were essential to some people, you know. And so it would seem like an essential. Whoever was making the profit off of the Chicago run, and I've been to that house on Halstead. It's on Halstead in Chicago, and hey, they lock up there because that's a pretty tough neighborhood.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, they was really concerned for my well-being when I went to take them to cashiers to buy the timber, and I had to walk through a group of guys sitting on the front steps, and I told them, I said, look, just like a dog will bite you if you think you're scared of him. So I just kind of walked on through them, and they said they had a son that had been paralyzed by them, had beat him up down there, but they knew all about it. But my point was that there were so many of them living in that house that if you got this this disease, this virus in there, you could probably take out 4 or 5 people without any problem. So those numbers can multiply pretty fast if you don't do the lockdown properly. And I've been kind of I've believed it and I've not believed it, and I've gone back and forth, but obviously it does its job. And the only place I heard an exception was in Sweden, and they didn't lock down anything in Sweden, is what I understand. They went on with the theaters and the dancing and the restaurants, and they had the same ratio that we have in the United States of the people that tested positive.
Jerry, we want to wrap up our conversation. We're visiting with our Toccopola storyteller, Jerry Short, right here on the Y'all Show. And one last coronavirus thing that we want to bring up with Jerry is the fact that a lot of our prisoners are being let out, our nonviolent prisoners normally, but I understand some people who probably shouldn't be let out have been let out. In fact, one person killed somebody here recently in one of our states. And Jerry, it just kind of brought up, since we've been talking in the last couple of weeks with you, some of your adventures of going to prison. There was one time when you went as a journalist. You mentioned that great sports journalism job you had. You went over to Atlanta to cover the SEC men's basketball tournament. And while en route there, you got pulled over in Douglasville, Georgia, and you actually had to go spend the night in the slammer because of an expired tag or expired license. Fill us in on that, and do you think you would have been let out if the coronavirus had been happening at that time?
Probably so, but I tell you what they did. They handcuffed me to an iron pipe in Douglasville, and they felt bad about it after it was over. They apologized, but it was too late after I spent all night there. But my son was there with me, and
gosh,
they didn't bail me out because they didn't have anybody there that could bail you out. The secretary was not working. But if you brought that one up, the one that I think more about is the one in Memphis where it was 13 of us in one cell. So and we were just crammed in there like sardines. If one person would have had it in that group, everybody could have had it, in jail.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying if they're letting these people out of jail now, and of course the Douglasville thing does kind of stick in my craw. But what it was an expired. I had gotten a speeding ticket, and the highway patrolman was nice enough to say your inspection sticker on your vehicle expired yesterday. So I'm gonna write that up, and there won't be a moving violation. So I had forgotten about it and didn't pay that $25. So when he pulled me over for doing nothing, he said I ran a stop sign at midnight. I'd been to the SEC basketball tournament covering it for the newspaper. As I come up the hill, he pulled me over and he said that, hey, I got to check everything. And he got in his car. Then he come back out and he said, put your hands behind your back. And he handcuffed me for that. He handcuffed me for that. And then he carried me down to the police station and he handcuffed me to an iron pipe.
Why? Why didn't they put you in a cell?
He said, if you're out of state, they could not. You had to pay cash in Georgia at that time. I don't know if it's still that way or not. But he went on. They had a sale at the police station also, and two people were in it. And then he put me in it. Then my son and the sports editor, they got together. It was $600 fine, what it was, and they got me out. And we went up to Shoney's to eat breakfast, and the policeman come in as he was getting off duty, and I saw him talking to the cashier. And when he left, she came back to my table and said he felt sorry for what he did, but he wants to buy you. He wants to buy you a what's their specialty, Shoney's?
They have the breakfast buffet.
Well, I'd already ate. They didn't have the buffet then. What did they had it, but it wasn't up. Oh, he wanted to buy me a strawberry shortcake. And I said, well,
Nice.
I don't think I want a strawberry shortcake this early in the morning, but I appreciate it. And if he comes back in, tell him I understand that he was doing his job. Maybe a little overkill, but he was doing his job. So, yeah, you were right on that night, Douglasville, Georgia. Every time I pass Douglasville, I think of that. I had a hotel up at Douglasville, and I drove up there after the basketball game at the Georgia Dome that night. And I pulled, the stop sign was down on the Interstate 20, and I went way up around, and it was drizzling rain, and he was parked under a canopy of a closed service station for the night. And he pulled out and said that's what I didn't stop down the hill.
Yeah.
But I never saw the sign, and I've been back over there, and I never saw the sign again. So, those things happen, and you just have to kind of roll with the punches sometimes. But when they go to arresting you for little or nothing, you deserve to get let out.
You do, and we hope some of that foolish arrests are not happening now. At least we can maybe control some of the incarceration and rates going on right now with the COVID-19.
I don't even really see many police or highway patrol out at all now. Unless they're working a wreck or something like that.
Right.
Just kind of letting people go, and they don't want to put anybody in jail now because you don't know who you got. You got to test them. I think I told you my son's car got broken into, and he straightened all the stuff up, and they arrested these 3 guys that did it, and he's got cameras on his house, and they tested positive. So when he goes into work now, he has to do his temperature twice when he goes to work in the morning, and do his temperature twice when he leaves. And they give him a form to fill out, and he has to do it at home to make sure he don't have the virus. And it could have been spread by these 2 people that broke in his vehicle in his yard.
Gosh, Jerry, I got to get out of here. I got to go check on my moonshine still. So we'll have. Yeah.
And you make sure it's got all the ingredients. I didn't give them all out.
Yeah.
One of these days, I'll give you my recipe.
I think my pond is a little bit more pretty than the one you ran across back.
I got pictures of it. I'm gonna dig them up down on my farm and in my house down there. I'll show you those pictures. You'll enjoy it.
Okay. Our Toccopola Storyteller, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thank you, John.
All right. And everybody, that'll wrap up our Y'all Show today. Thank you for being a part. We got a very good show headed your way on the Tuesday Y'all Show. We'll have our barbecue barrister and so much more. You don't want to miss the fun of this, the show that covers everything Dixie. This is Y'all.